This is 3rd and goal, one of the PDs by Witherspoon. Here is Amanwari. He'll be covering this tight end, kind of a little bit of a basic route, if you ask me. He covers it up well, takes that option away, ends up being a 4-man rush by Seattle. So another situation where, they're showing you who the guys are that are going to rush, and they're just relying on those guys being able to disrupt. So first things first, Nacua with a little out motion. He's going to bring his route back to the inside, kind of back to the right hash. And this is an inside linebacker. Ernest Jones IV is going to kind of hedge over there. And the combination of him and Woolen is what prevents Stafford from maybe coming back to Puka Nacua. Now, look, there's an absolute win here by Nacua from a counter standpoint, meaning Woolen goes to get his inside hand on him, and then Nacua just slaps him off of him with the inside arm. But because of the leverage, or because of the way that Ernest Jones IV played this, that kind of prevented Stafford from coming back there and maybe possibly throwing him the football. What I'm talking about is if Ernest Jones IV isn't here, if he's in some other location. But Amanwari running across the field with the tight end, and then Julian Love's actually going to leave that space, and he's going to help out and come over here and try to cover up Nacua and also prevent Stafford from getting the football to him there. So you've also got, I think, up at the top of the screen, a really nice job by Josh Jobe on kind of like an out fade to Devontae Adams. They didn't throw him the football. I'll pull that one back, so you guys can see it. Great play by Witherspoon. Let's talk about Jobe just for a moment. Compressed split, so he's at the top of the numbers. He being Devontae Adams is at the top of the numbers. Down here's the bottom of the numbers. And you guys have got a frame that you can't see it, but this receiver's feet, about 5 feet outside of the bottom number. So a real differential in alignment. Of course, it could mean that Adams is trying to get across field. More often, it means that you're going to get, a fade route. You might get a fade out, and then, he'll bring it back to the sideline. In this case, I think you get an out fade. Different names for it. If we were between the 30s, people would call it, an out and up. But he's just turning his head. Adams, you guys can kind of see it here. And Jobe gets his hand on him, but not so much so that they'll call the penalty. Rides him out of bounds. The route's over. I think Jones and Woolen did a nice job of initially defending Nacua. Amanwari all over the tight end, and then Love leaves the tight end, comes over here to help out with Nacua, and then finally it's Witherspoon who gets the statistical designation, the PD at the end. I just think you've got a really great example of coverage there across the board. The only thing that you would say you don't love, I guess, is the fact that Nacua was able to slap Woolen off of him with the quick counter. Finally, let's do the next snap. This will be the last one that I'll talk about. It's the 4th and goal. Amanwari's up here. I'll give you the end zone angle so you can kind of confirm or disagree with what I say. I think he's being held, but so many of these offensive linemen in the NFL, it almost kind of depends on which team you play for. They're allowed to basically hold, if you ask me. So Amanwari's up here with Ernest Jones IV, DeMarcus Lawrence, and then also Julian Love. So they're threatening the blitz. Credit Mike McDonald and Aiden Durde that staying true to who they are in this moment. 4th and goal, game on the line. So first, I think the scheme here is the tight end's route is designed to get open because of the way Seattle defended Nacua on the previous snap. Nacua doesn't really do anything, but I think he's really just a decoy. So watch his route. He'll just kind of sit here at the goal line, and Seattle drops out Derek Hall from an inside-out leverage standpoint. And then they've also got Kobe Bryant. So, they're kind of bracketing him there, if you want to call it that. The tight end's route after the motion is designed to go over the top of that. And, that's where the target ends up happening or occurring. The throw by Stafford is late, and Witherspoon is in perfect position. But check out how Seattle defends this. So this is Amanwari blitzing. You've got Love and Lawrence trying to stay with this running back. I think it's pretty obvious that's where Matthew Stafford wants to go with the football. Adams and Jobe locked up, completely man-to-man. For whatever reason, Stafford didn't want to throw this football, maybe over the top of Lawrence, somewhere near the NFL logo and make Kyron Williams, run underneath of it. Witherspoon played it perfectly. Amanwari's on a blitz. You've got Reek Woolen down to the bottom side against Mumfield. So here's the route. And I think this is just an athletic mismatch for real from the standpoint of Witherspoon and this tight end, or, maybe he's not a tight end. I don't know what he is, but he's trying to leverage to the outside and then cut across Witherspoon's face. I mean, Witherspoon just handles it well, says, okay, I'll just run underneath of you and take away the route. It's a great play by Witherspoon. I think it's pretty obvious that if the roles were reversed, if it was a receiver with inside leverage getting his hands on the football and a DB or any defensive player on the backside of that reaching over the top, around them, whatever you want to call it, it could possibly be construed as a defensive pass interference. And that's why I think Witherspoon gets up and he's so pissed off. It's an athletic mismatch, a technique mismatch. Witherspoon's made of steel, for real. I think he wants to be in these moments. He was up to the task. It certainly made Sean McVay angry. I think McVay maybe outthought himself a little bit. The design of the play, if you believe my description here, I think is to get this tight end open by using the gravity of Nacua on the previous snap. And, it just makes me wonder, like, why aren't you, trying to target Adams up here at some point or Nacua? But sometimes, when your best player, best receiver, or one of your best receivers is essentially a slot guy, maybe it does make it, and you're so reliant on motion to get him the football, maybe it does make it sometimes a little bit more difficult to design things. I feel like McVay kind of outsmarted himself. I'm certainly not saying that, something else to Adams or Nacua would have worked, but credit to Seattle for pulling this off in this moment after a 7.5 minute drive by the Rams. Let's look at the end zone angle just for a moment so you can see what I'm talking about. You got Jones, Amanwari, Lawrence, and Love all threatening to blitz off that weak side where the running back is. I think the Rams correctly, determined, okay, all four of these guys aren't blitzing, because you can see they released the running back. The running back, Kyron Williams, runs that wheel. You've got to get out there quickly. And so he runs this wheel, kind of hedges towards Love, and then takes his route off screen for us. You also get a sense of how Derek Hall dropped out to Nacua, so they're just in a great look, if you ask me, from a defensive standpoint for where the Rams lined up Nacua. Let's talk about the arms or the hands of these guys, the Rams offensive linemen, the way that they approach it. Look at the left tackle. I mean, he's just obviously swallowing up Amanwari with those wide hands. And then, Amanwari's not getting away from him, but it's because he's being held. He's being held, on the right shoulder pad, and he's being held on the left shoulder pad at the same time. I know there's going to be people who say, hey, they don't call that in the NFL. It doesn't mean that it's not a hold, number one. Number two, when it's this obvious right in front of the ref, I feel like you've got an opportunity to complain a little bit. But in any case, a great play by Witherspoon, and we already talked about it from the all-22 angle, to get in front here and get basically a better angle to the football than the tight end had. Stafford, put the ball in a place where he thought his guy could make a play. Spectacular stuff, if you ask me, from the Seahawks defense. Finally, right up to that point, I had been, somewhat disappointed with most of the guys playing except for Nick Amanwari.